course we started.
Which I need to get
Oh, wow.
those over to
And
Amherst.
ninth graders.
I think we're live.
Get a little
And it
prize.
was just.
Are we
I
live?
need to get a PDF of each
It
one.
was
and get them over there.
successful.
Yeah, it's-
Okay, we're going to take one question before we start our panel. The question is, how does your partnership with College Board translate into direct benefits to the students in grants, college, and/or scholarships?
All right, well, our partnership with College Board, I think the encouragement of us for students to take both pathways. So that will be the benefit for students, and I think that universities will begin to recognize, just like they're currently recognizing our courses. So the typical way we see that is either through one-to-one credit for those courses, or a dual credit. We see preference points for really competitive colleges and universities, so we see them giving preference points for Project Lead the Way students, or students that have completed a sequence, and then also scholarships. So many of our university partners have specific Project Lead the Way scholarships currently. So we think the conversation will really be broadened with the partnership with College Board, in that they're already working with tons of universities. So our university list is growing, but not nearly as large as our partners. So we just think the combined message of the work that we're doing, the original work that students will have, the criteria of end-of-course assessments for College Board and our end-of-course assessments, that it's just this, we're sort of on this awareness curve for students. But I was just telling Sally, we had a student last week at our summit. She was an engineering student. She is doing original research with a Tulane professor. She sort of has her own lab. She's researching the BP oil spill. She applied as a senior in high school with the help of this university professor for an NSF grant. She was awarded that grant as a high school senior. So I think the whole concept of advanced math and science, of the original work through Project Lead the Way courses, there's tons of opportunities for our students. So she's been published. She has figured out why the grasses continue to die in the Gulf, and just an incredible research story, and now she's trying to pick her university to continue that research. So our students are becoming much more sophisticated, and I think the partnership will just help.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin. We're going to move on to the Getting Started with Project Lead the Way panel. We have a distinguished panel here with us. So we're going to start with, could you each introduce yourself and describe your role with Project Lead the Way? Nick?
Start with me. I'm Nick Frederickson. I am the Assistant Curriculum Specialist for Skilled and Technical Sciences for Lincoln Public Schools. And I'm the partnership panel for Project Lead the Way liaison, school liaison.
I'm Jan Christensen with Omaha Public Schools. I started the program at Omaha North High Magnet School, and I am now working with building partnerships with the district and career education.
My name's Eric Knoll. I'm a retired teacher, actually. I'm currently working in a split appointment between the State Department of Education, where I serve as the state leader for Project Lead the Way, and I also am a professor of practice at the university, starting up the Skilled and Technical Science teaching program for future teachers in career and technical education.
I'm Carla Dorsey. I'm the technology coordinator and Project Lead the Way administrator for Trinity Lutheran School in Fremont, Nebraska.
I'm Brenda Gerken. I'm a second grade teacher, and I am the lead teacher for lunch at Trinity Lutheran.
Thank you. Could you start, let's see, we'll start with Eric. Eric, you started Project Lead the Way at LPS. So could you explain how that came about and what were the factors that led to choosing Project Lead the Way?
Sure. Back in 2007, like most schools, we had a curriculum improvement process, and we were at the point where we really needed to evaluate and improve our curriculum in the industrial technology classroom. And so we had heard about Project Lead the Way at the time, and we decided to pilot and send a couple teachers to the training to really evaluate the training. And what came back from the teachers was exactly what you've heard from the Project Lead the Way representatives. It's tremendous training. The teachers came back excited about the curriculum. They were excited about the projects and the problems that they were equipped to teach. And from that point in 2007, then we trained well over 16 teachers in the district, and began to implement an engineering career path for our students.
Thank you. How about at OPS, Jan?
We actually began, I think our first bit of training was in 2002. So we were actually, the Nebraska Department of Education came to several schools in the metro area and hosted it at Omaha North, and they asked if they kind of brought Project Lead the Way forward to us and said, are you interested? After that, when we walked back out of that meeting thinking, do we have what it takes to do that kind of a program, first of all, and what would be the advantages of that type of a program? For us, the advantages was we were a magnet school in mathematics and science and technology, so for us, it said it made a lot of sense. And it took an engineering technology program that was flourishing in CAD and really started to put its arms around it and promote it to national recognition. So for us, it had a lot of all the pieces that we already had in place, but it did take that one component that everybody's talking about, that training piece, and really took it to a whole different level of what we had. So it was a very good start for us. Now we have trained in the biomedical side also, and we are also doing the computer science side. So you can see we kind of maybe, so to speak, drank the Project Lead the Way Kool-Aid, but we definitely believe in the process and what it gives in benefits for students.
As a brand new school in Project Lead the Way, and also as a launch gateway school, Carla and Brenda, do you want to talk about how you found out about Project Lead the Way and how you got started?
Actually, it was, we have a parent that works at UNL, Brett Meyer. He brought the idea to us. And being a school, I would say we're definitely above the average on technology, on math. We have a very good infrastructure and have begun coding at an early age and things like that. So it fit our curriculum, where we wanted to go for the future, and we investigated it more with Brett to learn more about it. We definitely thought the training was definitely a really good thing. So it sort of brought all of it together for us. So, and being such a small school compared to you guys, it made it much easier to work through.
So it's good to have the perspective of the larger school district
Right.
versus a very small school district.
Right.
Because we have a lot of,
I would think the training is great for large and small. I mean, definitely it fit what we needed.
do you want to comment about the training? Why don't you talk about the launch training, for instance? And how do you fund the training? Actually, a question came in about how much training costs, so maybe we can address that question in the panel. But
For us, we've actually done a lot of grant writing and partnered with local businesses in Fremont who have been able to underwrite us and given us the ability to fund quite a bit of our programming. I don't know if you want to address that further.
Yeah, we have a couple partners that we developed to help us with some of the things that we needed, but definitely we are heavy grant writers, so we've been able to fund most of our hardware and devices before we even took a look at Project Lead the Way. So we had most of our infrastructure in place. So for us, it was a matter of just funding the training, the supplies and things like that. So from a smaller school perspective, as a private school, you definitely probably want to have your infrastructure in place before you try to jump into it 100%.
okay, it's the startup costs. And
Right,
then,
just to cover your startup costs.
and then sustaining it
Mhm.
will not be a problem going forward.
Sure, it just depends on your resources. I mean, if you're writing grants, if you have partners, local partners that you're already partnering with. As a startup school, we're still going in that direction. So,
Right.
and being our first year, so we have a ways to go yet, but we're definitely working on it.
Great, so you're here to attest that small schools can do this.
Absolutely.
Well, Jan, how did that funding get started with OPS? And
Well, we started, I believe, with an innovation grant through the Department of Ed. And it was a $40,000 grant at that time, and it was renewable for 3 years. So we started with the 40,000. We saw instantly a need to pull in our middle level school along with us. We took the same concept to them. We started pulling them in before they were actually even a Project Lead the Way school. We wanted them to have a clear understanding of the importance, we kind of pathway for that. And so the next two, I think it was actually a 2-year. The next year we shared part of the funds with them. But we again had a lot of the infrastructure already in place. Perkins money helps a lot in terms of that with all of your technology needs and things. But the Nebraska Department of Education does have revisioning grants and things like that that are out there, and new technology type of grants that you should look at that are pretty simple to write and get ready for. But if you have the infrastructure, we look to see, I mean, when we went and visited a lot of schools also. We actually, at that point in time, there wasn't much in the state of Nebraska or anything even in our region. So we went to the East Coast, which for our teachers was a fun venture, right? And so looked at some of the programs out there, and when we started looking at them out there, then we kind of come back and say, okay, this is what we know we want, and this is where we know we need to go, so let's see how we're going to get there. And initially, everybody said to start in principles of engineering first, and then go into IED second in the engineering side of it. But for us, it made more sense to start with IED because we had the technology. And so that's where we started, and I think now the model is kind of to actually do a lot of it that way now. But we felt kind of like mavericks at the time, going out and kind of looking to see what do you have, what can you start with, and then start training. So funding always is a consideration, especially on how you get your teachers there and everything. But I started adding up, I think we have trained 13 teachers over the years, and we have trained in 23 different courses in engineering, 4 different courses in bioscience, and 2 in the computer science area. So you can see that you can do it. And now, of course, with because of Sally and some of the work she's been doing here, and Robin and Kim providing training locally, we had to go away to train. And so again, those guys were traveling to New York, darn, and San Diego, darn it, those type of trainings. But the reality of it was that was also about a $4,000 to $5,000 ticket with that too. And we also did stipend our teachers for the training that we did. That was the other thing that I don't know that nationally they're doing that at anymore, but at the beginning, that was kind of one of the things that you looked at as well. So it was about $5,000 initially. Now with all the training that's local, it's certainly brought that cost down a lot. So that's a great thing for everybody, I believe. And I know it's not quite the case with the launch program or with the Gateway program, but it's certainly for the high school level programs in engineering has been a great savings for us.
I might also mention the Partnerships for Innovation grant right now.
Right, exactly.
at this
PFI
time.
is another one that we also have taken great advantage of.
So for the public schools, I just might interject that Partnerships for Innovation has partnered with us to provide the tuition for the training. So you can apply for that grant for Gateway and high school. Unfortunately not for launch yet, but you can apply for that grant, and training is covered, and it has been covered for the past 3 years. It will
Yeah.
be covered this summer, and we're going to renew that grant for future. So that's a really good thing. Eric and Nick, do you guys want to comment on the funding for LPS? Or?
Oh, sure. I got started, I can kind of follow up with that, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, we had the existing computer labs, we had the infrastructure in place, we had just a real need to be consistent in our training for all of our teachers across the district, and we really saw the need to invest in the teachers. So we did also stipend the teachers. There's a registration fee to go to the training, which was at the time around $2,100, I believe, at the time, which hasn't changed much over the years. It's been very consistent, and that was paid through Perkins dollars and through district funding. So we did it with existing funding, and we did the training in a sequence as we put in a program of study. So we started with an IED, Introduction to Engineering Design. We then trained in CEA, Civil Engineering and Architecture, because that fit the sequence of courses we currently had in the district. And those were career and tech ed courses being taught by the industrial technology teachers that we were training. And then we also trained in digital electronics.
And since then, we've implemented at our career academy. We've gone with principles of engineering, which I know is usually second in that sequence. And then actually Travis Ray is our teacher for principal engineering is here as well. And then PFI grants come into that. I think tuition is roughly about 24 to 26, depending on where you go. It's kind of where I've kind of been. I'm kind of seeing that research or those numbers coming out. And we also stipend our teachers still, and then this year we're planning to put in civil, computer integrated manufacturing, and of course training we have some staffing issues, or not say issues, but we have some staffing that's changing, and so we're going to be needing to train additional teachers once, if the teacher, or say for retirements or change of plans or anything like that.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to partnership teams. Project Lead the Way requires each school to have a partnership team consisting of industry representatives, teachers, parents, students. Do you want to talk about how the partnership team for Omaha North got started, Jen?
Sure. We looked at all the different groups that we thought should be at the table, and obviously with us it was about we brought students and we had parents on there as well, and we got lucky. We had parents that were engineers and part of OPPD and things like that. So you looked at really the people at that point in time. Being pretty new to this, we didn't have really mentors that had been working with us for a long time and things like that. So we just looked at the university. We made certain we had somebody from the university. We made certain we had people and representations from our community colleges with us as well. And then we also had the business industry. And the nice thing about this now, especially in the state of Nebraska, if you're looking at the Career Academy model, this really is a blending of that. You can take your partnership team and blend it to the Career Academy team that you need for your business advisory. And now it's even stronger than it was before. A lot of our mentors have come on. Very few people dropped off of it, and so that's also good. And they kind of helped us along the way, just talking to us about where should we go, what should we do. They've helped us with funding. Logier's Foundation has been tremendously supportive of us. We have other different foundations across the city who have also helped us with things as we go forward to try to get some of the technology that are pricier pieces out there. They've helped us with some of those things. So we've been very fortunate in this. Really, Project Lead the Way honestly helped to put Omaha North on the map in terms of, I didn't think that it would ever take kind of the synergy that it has, but a lot of the kids, even if you aren't in our school, we are the only school in Omaha Public Schools at Omaha North that has Project Lead the Way. It's kind of our magnet concept for our district, so they've been very deliberate in that, in keeping it there. So for us, it is now something that even if you aren't attending, you know what Project Lead the Way is because they've heard so much about it. So it's for us has been a big thing, and part of that is because your partnership team also acts as your advocates out there and telling the story along with you on your way. So they not only help you in our curriculum, they help us in looking at budgetary things. They have helped us in terms of some of our branding that we are doing. So they've been very critical in our development.
That does emphasize the need for a strong partnership team.
It does, definitely, yeah.
Eric began the partnership team at Lincoln Public Schools, and Nick continues it, so.
Yeah, the partnership team in Lincoln really helped bring really the relevance of the curriculum to the classroom, because they got involved in the classroom, they started visiting, they got familiar with the curriculum, and they were really supporting not only the teachers and what they were doing in the classroom, but the students and the projects that they were on and the way that they were able to engage with students. The other thing that our partnership team did was really helped us with some efforts with non-traditional students. We began to do some things, for example, for women in engineering, and we did some luncheons and some things to bring females into the discussion because a lot of them weren't in these classes. And we had a lot of female engineers and architects around the city that really took that on as a project for them and really helped inform females in the district about this opportunity in engineering.
Do you want to add anything
Yeah,
to that?
sure, you bet. Yeah, we also, this year we kind of brought back the format of pairing each building up with a industry professional. So we kind of had some new members kind of come to the table, and you kind of get that through kind of word of mouth, and you kind of, and also through Career Academy, we got some contacts there from their partnership teams as well. We brought companies like Kawasaki and Zoetis, I think I'm saying that right, Travis, I think I'm saying that right. Zoetis, thank you. And kind of some of those companies to the table and actually paired them with a school, like Duncan Aviation's paired with Northeast High School, for instance, and Kawasaki's with Lincoln High. And Clark Anderson Partners is out there at East High School with John. And so we kind of have all these kind of individual partnerships because we are a small enough district where we feel like we were really able to kind of do one partnership team and kind of be able to have everybody come to the same table. Instead of having at each individual school, we found that to be very beneficial. And so that was a great addition to what Eric had started, and that's kind of how it was. I think when Eric was running the partnership team as well, we've kind of just continued that effort. And so also I think from getting them involved in the actual projects, like Eric had said, whether it's going to be a competition with Davis Design Project or it's going to be something at PKI, Residential Design Contest, some of those areas we can bring them on as mentors as well, and also with career opportunities for students. And we did have a few of the Women in Engineering luncheons this year as well, kind of continuing that effort as well. And then partnering with Sally's on our partnership team as well, who is also with our engineering ambassadors, has been a great addition to get into the schools as kind of the engineering foot soldiers, so to speak, and really get the word out to everyone in our school district about the opportunities that are available for architecture and engineering.
Carla and Brenda, have you started a partnership team?
We have not started the
Okay.
team yet.
Mhm.
In our planning stages.
Right,
So
right.
will be any information you guys can share would be great.
Sally, I'd be amiss too if I didn't give some credit to our partnership team because we got very lucky and because of our partnership team, were able to assist us in building on a new addition that really stands in engineering and STEM. So they were real pivotal also in helping us along the way on that.
And you'll be shocked how many engineers and architects, for like Lincoln Electric, or just you contact them, they were very excited to be involved in that because they want to know how they can give back to the community, help the kids out, and kind of be that mentor because we all need engineers and architects, and
Yes.
the demand is through the roof.
Yes.
And so I think that's they're jumping at the chance. So that's the partnership team. When you make those contacts, you'll be surprised at the positive feedback you'll get.
I have a quick question along that. Who do you contact, who is your sort of first initial contact when you reach out to business? Because I know a lot of schools, they don't know who, who's the right person to reach out to.
And sometimes I think proximity plays a good. Sometimes, especially in Lincoln, we had Kawasaki. That was I had very good relationships with Jim Townsend over at Kawasaki. He's kind of head of their safety and safety area, and so he was able to. Either if I had a contact there, then I could just kind of say, well, who would I need to talk to? Duncan Aviation is a very big company in our area, so that was a very easy contact for me to make or to continue. And so I just kind of found that the proximity helps, and then also I guess the way and Eric had a few of those already established when I came in, like Clark Anderson Partners. If Eric wanted to talk about how he kind of got that started.
Well, I think it was relationships with people within that industry. So whether it was a human resource contact or a parent contact, we were contacting the industry to find an architect or engineer, somebody specific that was actually the professional that we could then connect to the classroom. So a lot of it was just relationships teachers had, in career and technical education, we're out there in the industry, we're trying to connect students to those industries. So that's where we started. And
Parents too, where they were
Right.
targeting. Yeah.
Correct.
I think it is one of the harder things for especially our teachers to do, though. They're not familiar with working with businesses. So there is a little bit of worry there about, especially with starting Career Academy advisories and things like that, to say, "Ooh, that is out of my comfort zone." So I think you're right in that looking to the next level up, the Erics of the world that can help you to possibly that have those contacts. It is to cold call into a company is very difficult, but you just start all of a sudden networking, and then small group come together, and then that group will help you network to another, another groups, and then it grows pretty quickly. Like you say, I think everybody wants to help. That's the one good thing about this industry is that they know the need. There's a great need, and they want to bring more in, and they want to keep them in the state of Nebraska. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that starting point really is your, where do I even go? When I was a classroom teacher, I was encouraged to do that. I'm like, well, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah,
so
where
then you
do I
ask your
start,
kids,
right?
anybody's parent here an engineer? And then you'd see a couple hands go up, oh, great, you have their contact information, and then that's really, once you get that initial contact down, it usually gets pretty friendly after that.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Any thoughts on, some folks out there are looking at Lincoln and Omaha and saying, yeah, you have lots going on there to sort of choose from with business and industry partners. But what about some of the small rural areas? And who would you recommend, or what sort of steps in that avenue would you recommend to them?
Well, one of the things that I think the smaller schools are all connected in our state to an ESU, and the ESU is also in a community college area. And most all the community colleges have partnership teams. They have advisory boards, and you can connect through the community college to those industries in your area, which I think would be a great thing for us to do in our state based on the way that our system is set up. So, within their ESU, they have a community college region, and in that region, they've got industries that are involved.
And not so much focusing on if you have an engineering firm, but really anyone who's going to be hiring STEM literate individuals,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, it doesn't
Correct.
necessarily have to be specific engineering, and especially in agricultural areas, you may look towards those areas as well, because there's a lot of engineers within those areas that we don't necessarily think about when we talk about engineers, but they're certainly in there. I think also that we need to maybe start, and I think this would be a good thing for us to start doing, is networking with putting representatives on each other's partnership teams, because I believe sometimes the growth of reaching out. I know that when Millard started to do Project Lead the Way in their district, I was actually contacted and I said, I would be glad to sit on your board. I don't necessarily believe it's a good idea to merge the boards together, because I think the needs of each school and school district are different, but I do think sitting on each other's boards would be a good thing to do. So, reaching out to Trinity, those type of places where some of us could bring some of that expertise together would be a good idea.
That's great, thank you. I mean, it's about relationship building.
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
And the other thing that companies really enjoy is to see your students. Bring your students in, show the projects that they're doing. Their hearts will melt, they'll be on board. Let's move on to the benefits of problem project-based learning. So we've changed the way that teachers teach. So Brenda, do you want to comment on how that's working?
I think the students are always actively involved in what they're doing. It teaches them to problem solve, it teaches them to critically think about what they're doing, and they're actively involved in real world problems as opposed to me giving them something that is, it's not in their world, something that they're involved in actively learning, and it's hands-on. They love it. I can't say enough about it.
So I would love to, Brenda, how are you guys implementing? Because I know every elementary is different, so I'd be really interested in.
Each classroom is doing their own module.
Okay.
So the kindergarten teacher is teaching the kindergarten modules, the first grade teacher is teaching the first grade module, and so on.
Are they doing all four?
We're doing one module in
One
each
module,
classroom this
okay.
year, with
Great.
the intention of adding a second next year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So are you integrating it into the math and the science?
We kind of slid it in alongside our science.
Okay.
Great.
And they match up with the Common Core State standards, right, I know that we don't support the Common Core. Nick, from the high school perspective.
Absolutely. In my own teaching from Project Lead the Way, about 4 years, I taught 4 years in Millard Public Schools in Omaha before I came to Lincoln. And I think that the problem-based solving is absolutely vital when it comes to how these students are applying what they're learning in core classes. And so I used to get that question, this isn't math class. Well, I understand that, but at the same time, you're using your math skills to solve a problem. And so the critical thinking aspect and the process they go through in that problem solving, from the design process to solve a problem, to the constraints you're given, to solve that problem, you'll have so many resources. How are you going to make it work? And I think that really is, and I used to say this all the time to my students, use what you know to figure out what you don't know. And so when you have that problem identified, then they can start taking those critical thinking steps. And actually, when they say in algebra, why do I need to solve for X? Well, this is X. So I think giving them that application to what they're actually using in their lives, like Brenda said, it's their world. Especially when you get into that capstone course of engineering design and development, that's all it is. You're designing a product and designing it from infancy to fruit, to the end result, to the actual prototype, and testing it, which is, for the kids, for that capstone course, that is, I think, the crown jewel of what the program has to offer. And that those skills are going to take into their personal lives, when they go off to school, or whatever their next step in their lives is going to be. Those skills are going to be applicable everywhere, not just in their Project Lead the Way courses or their university or their job, but in life.
It's those engineering habits of mind I was
Absolutely.
talking about. We are coming up on the lunch break, but I wanted to address a few questions before we broke. There's a question, are conversations happening between PLTW and Nebraska Higher Ed in order to offer our kids college credit?
Good question.
I can address that
Okay.
possibly. Actually, our partnership team has started having big discussions on that. And for a long time, it has been the case that our students are looking towards other institutions because of the not lack of affiliation, but not reaching to the same type of thing as maybe an Iowa has, or some of those surrounding ones. And so our dedication at North was always keep your kids home, send your kids. Although we had a lot of kids that were having offerings to go other places, really it's about making sure your kids come back and stay in your community. So a lot of discussions are being made, and we're breaking through on some of those things. And I think we're looking at, we coming down here today, we were talking about going in even to the College of Education and doing some of the PLTW training. I think that's being done in some of the Iowa schools are actually training their teachers for Project Lead the Way. So looking at some of those type of things. And, for a long time we just said to our students, what you get in this training will make you so much more advanced when you get to the college level. Look at it like that, if nothing else. Mm-hmm. And so, but they want to start looking at it as more, and I think that AP level thing is going to make some difference there. I think it's going to provide more recognition. And so we're chipping away at that. We've actually had, Dean Way has come in, Tim Way was in with us and had some dialogue with us. We've had dialogue with David Jones as well. So the dialogue is happening. It happened a long time ago when we first started. Then it just kind of went away, and now it's resurfacing again. So hopefully the more schools we get on and the better our programs are and the better we look as schools and the better our kids are doing in terms of production on some of the tests and things, the institutions will start seeing a greater need to look at some of those things. So.
Well,
And I think the other thing that we're seeing too is universities really recognizing the Project Lead the Way student, not necessarily the credit. And so you're looking at some universities offering scholarships to students that have completed the Project Lead the Way curriculum, for example. And I think that because of the tightening of the credit hours at the university level, trying to really guarantee a student can graduate in 4 years, I think it's difficult for colleges of engineering and other colleges to give an awful lot of dual credit, if you will. But I know they recognize the value of, the curriculum and the value of the student completing that program.
Absolutely. And we are starting to collect data on the students. We have about 2 years of data looking at retention levels of students who have taken Project Lead the Way versus those who come in without. And all the alumni that I talk to say that the Project Lead the Way courses have helped them tremendously in their first year of engineering and beyond. To be respectful of your time, but there's one more. If you have questions for the panel, actually, why don't you type them in now? Of course, we can answer them after lunch. I think here's some questions for Robin and Kim. How much does the program cost? How much does the training cost? We've addressed the training cost. But if it's for launch and gateway, the training for gateway, well, if you want to. When is the training offered? I'll answer that question. The trainings are generally offered in the summers. There are other plans that we can do during the year, but those are individual. But they're usually offered at affiliate universities, University of Nebraska being one of them. And
And the University of Nebraska has also transcripted the training so that a teacher that would want to get, for example, some graduate credit for the Project Lead the Way training they take are able to do that.
And Kim also mentioned districts that are training happening in some districts, and I will just say that's typically a large district that's bringing on a lot of elementary, and we work directly with our affiliate partners to figure out how we can get training at their site. So it's really, we've had some successful trainings and we partnered to do that, but recognizing Jan's point of the travel, and especially if you're bringing on a lot of schools and a lot of teachers. So really open to how we can bring that training to schools, especially at the launch level.
Okay, so I'm going to just address some of the questions about program costs and training costs and that sort of thing. So with the 5 programs that we have, the Launch, Gateway, and the 3 high school pathways, we have Launch is a $750 participation fee annually, and that again encompasses all access to all 24 10-hour modules in biomedical, computer science, and engineering. The training for that, if you're looking at, it's a 3-day training for the Launch lead teacher, and within that 3-day training, that's going to be around $700 in tuition, and then there will be 2 days of lodging, of course, and meals for that particular teacher. The Gateway program is also $750 a year annual participation fee, and that covers all of the 10 units in Gateway. Of course, you have to train. The difference between Launch is that you train one Launch lead teacher at the core training site. They can do building level training then for no additional cost to those teachers in the building. Gateway and the rest of the high school programs are not a train-the-trainer model. Any of the units or courses that you want to offer in your school, you do have to send a teacher to that particular core training. And so the Gateway units vary. So some are a week-long core training and some are around 3 days. So it depends on that. But if you're looking at about a week of training, we say about $1,500 to sort of budget for tuition, lodging, and meals. So you can see where maybe 2 of those specialization courses that are only 3 days you could do in a week. And then with the week-long training, of course, that would be around the $1,500 that would cover that. The 3 high school programs, engineering, biomedical, and computer science. So the engineering program is $3,000 a year annual participation fee, and again for all access to those coursework. The computer science is $2,000 a year annual participation fee for those courses, and the biomedical science, excuse me, is also $2,000 a year annual participation fee. The core training cost for those are generally, the core training in the high school are generally 2 weeks of training, and so you would basically be budgeting around $3,000 for those 2 weeks of core training. And there is a question on format for the lessons, examples of the lessons. So what I would encourage you to do is go to the pltw.org website, and we have detailed course outlines that are readily available. On any of the program pages, there's a small gray blue box that will say detailed course outlines. If you click that, you fill out just a tiny bit of information, email address, they will automatically email you those detailed course outlines, so you can take a look at what that course sort of entails. The state standard, how do the state standards and national standards fit into the curriculum? We also have, all of our coursework is aligned to the next gen science standards as well as Common Core. So you have that tool at your disposal that you can go into any of those courses and see exactly, even within launch, you can go into a particular kindergarten module, let's say the engineering strand, the module in that. You can go in and see in that module what standards they are covering in that curriculum. And that's all on the www.pltw.org site. There's a search engine that is nice if you need to, sometimes in websites it's hard to find information you want, but there is a search engine there, and then you can also reach out to our school support team as well. We have our solutions team, it's school support all together at pltw.org is the email address, and so any information you might want from there, you can email them.
And Kim, when we began this process, one of the things that Project Lead the Way did was really gave us a snapshot of the curriculum. So we actually got to look at the curriculum to see the PowerPoints, and it's very, very well developed. It's excellent curriculum. So once the teacher completes the training, they then get access to that
Absolutely.
curriculum.
Absolutely. And the curriculum, again, I don't know if we really covered this earlier, but it's all online, live online. So this is something that we can make adjustments to this curriculum. Let's say tonight, if we needed to, it would be live online for the America and all the schools tomorrow. So your curriculum's not going to be stagnant. It's not about buying textbooks every 3 to 5 years, that sort of thing. It's all part of that participation fee is that you get that updated curriculum, you get the ongoing professional development, you have opportunities within your learning communities and teacher forums and that sort of things.
I talk about that. The LMS to me was absolutely the best tool I have come across as far as in my own instruction. Just the access you have, the bells and whistles that you have for
What kind of things
assessments.
are you
Just,
using the LMS for?
I use the LMS in my teaching. I use it for kind of almost a secondary grade book. And so what I would do is I would use all the bells and whistles if you want to do a discussion thread with your students on the off hours. You wanted to flip that classroom. You wanted to kind of develop assessments yourself, keep them on your own LMS. You could actually set the time you want them to take it, give them access to it. They take it, it grades it automatically for you. And you can actually go in and analyze that data on which question, how many students were correct and incorrect on each question. To me, it happened in an instant. And so it took some time to maybe build some of the assessments you had to build yourself, which I actually enjoyed doing that. But the end result and the data collection and analysis has been invaluable as
Thank
an
you
instructor.
for that.
I loved it. I'm an LMS fanatic, to really be honest with you.
Thank you for that. And we found that it is sort of another learning curve that the teachers have to do, but we found that once they do it, they can't sort of live without it. It's a tool that their students are using, they're using, it's very impactful. One thing that I didn't note when we were talking about the cost for the programs, in the middle of February where we did open up and become more flexible with the programming aspects, we also had a opportunity to, if you want to have all three, access to all three pathway of coursework, you can do that for a $5,000 participation fee, which is a reduction if you take the 3 + 2 + 2. So there's another opportunity for smaller schools that wouldn't be able to offer 3 courses per 3 pathway. Now you can, in fact, take courses from any of those 3 pathways and utilize them within that particular model. So I just wanted to make sure that was thrown out there as
The other
well.
one thing I'll say about training is do not think you can teach these courses without the training.
No.
I mean, and we actually went to Rochester in a visit, and they had somebody that was teaching digital without the training, and oh my goodness, their teacher had left right before school was to start, so he thought, okay, I can handle this. And so I mean, that's the one thing. Stay true to the fact that the training is important. And if in fact that happens to you, which it did happen at North, we had done a training in what was used to be called biotechnical engineering, and our teacher left, and we just said, okay, we will not teach that class until we get somebody trained. And so we actually closed that section that year and then brought it back the next year. So, and the other thing is train in pairs if you can, just for that reason. Don't have somebody, especially in your starting courses, to be the only teacher in isolation, because
Right.
leaving certainly will happen. And I know North's going to undergo some loss of staff this year. Veterans are leaving, and replacing. You have to have somebody ready to go. So keep that in mind.
And thanks for bringing that up. And also, if schools do get in a lurch, let's say they're getting ready to start the school year, and there's coursework that has already been in the books, it's in the catalog. We do have a professional development plan for teachers. So for a particular fee, you can get just-in-time training with our master teachers and a lot of virtual aspects to keep that course going throughout the year. And that does not take away from the actual training. That is just to get you through that year. But they still have to do the core training in the summer, the following summer for that. So it's really a just-in-time, we've made this commitment, the kids are signed up, how do we make this happen? And it's been pretty phenomenal from what I've heard, the feedback, just being able to have that level of support that those teachers are feeling, so.
Well, thank you. It is excellent training. It's a very intense, very rigorous, very good training. It's 5 after 12. We do have some questions, but we're going to handle them a little bit after lunch. We're going to break from the simulcast right now for the Omaha, Norfolk, and Scottsbluff locations. If you're watching from your desk, stay tuned, because we're going to bring on our local panel here. So thank you very much, and we will resume at 11:45 Mountain Time. Thank you very much.